My name is Hannah Blair, and my film is A Timely Death, and I was the writer and director for it. I have always loved science fiction. I've always loved its ability to tell us things about our world and allow us to analyze our world through the lens of this different reality. So this film was really kind of about the idea of how do you assert your own value and how that looks within both a relationship, but then also individually as well. So it was really about the question of how do you take back your own life in small ways in a situation or in an environment that doesn't allow for that to happen naturally. I made this film while I was in college. It was part of the curriculum there was making this short film. So it definitely came out of a season of kind of being on a set path of doing and you're kind of told how to achieve certain things, and sort of being well, what do I, in the middle of all of this, what do I value? What is important to me? What is interesting to me? And sort of the idea of taking back little bits and pieces of your own life that maybe you've let go over the years, and how we can tend to live our lives for others, our family, our friends, sometimes our teachers in college, what they want from us, what other people expect of us, and just sort of deciding what you want for yourself. And I think definitely that time period in my life did have an effect on it. But I think just a broader question that we all face, growing up, of what is important to us and what do we want to claim for ourselves, definitely inspired a little bit of the question behind this film. The whole process, this was my first real full length, fully developed film. And just the process of actually making it happen was a challenge. Doing it in the environment of school where you have a lot of other voices kind of saying, this is what your film means, this is what it should mean, this is what's good, this is what's bad, and shifting through all of that to find what you want to make and what I wanted to make and what I thought was the core of my film. That was an interesting process and at times challenging. And then just there was the very practical challenge of I wanted to make a sci-fi film, but I was in Dayton, Ohio, and I didn't have a lot of money. So how do you visualize what sci-fi can look like in maybe not a huge budget, no real special effects, visually figuring out where we could place the film so that it wasn't about what it did or didn't look like, but it was about the story, and that the look of the film kind of supported the story. Figuring out all of that and then finding actual physical locations was also an interesting challenge to have. I don't even know how many drafts there were of this film. I probably 20 plus drafts of this story before, and I mean I was probably rewriting it up until a couple weeks before shooting it. And it gradually, it was kind of a process of refining. You took big chunks out from the beginning and then just kind of got closer and closer to the final thing. But in the beginning, when I first wrote this story, it was in a very similar world, but the main character was actually a person who received a letter from their future self telling them not to go through with this death date that was approaching. And so it took this kind of crazy track of them trying to figure out if this was real and like trying to chase their future self and all that sort of stuff. And it was like, it just had like a lot of questions. People didn't understand things. So like gradually, like I kind of reined it into this. There's still a lot of like very similar qualities of like trying to decide what you're going to do with your own life. But the premise completely changed. But it was interesting because it was still in that same world from the very beginning. Christopher Nolan sci-fi has always been like hugely inspirational for me. And also, I really value his investment in the characters of sci-fi too. It doesn't like his worlds don't necessarily look like, you know, fancy guns and like blinking lights and flashy things, but like the characters within it are still struggling with like really human things in the midst of like the weird sci-fi world he puts them into. So I would definitely say like Christopher Nolan was huge for me. Also, like very specifically, the film Arrival was another very character driven sci-fi kind of film about like a person kind of examining their own life. So I would say that I definitely like found connection to that story as well. So Timely Death was my first film, and because of that, it is far from a perfect film. I mean, I just recently watched it back in preparation for this Q&A, and it was like I hadn't seen it for a really long time, and so it was like really nice to be able to see it again kind of with fresh eyes after not seeing it for a while. But man, I mean, I also could like see all the issues and stuff. So like I would say make your work. Don't worry about it being a perfect film because just the fact that it exists means that it's worth it. You will get better having made your film, making film is the only way to get better. Get advice from people, listen to other people who have done it before, take in their words, but at the end of it, like you are doing this work because you want to make film and you want to be a filmmaker. And so do it for yourself too, you know, make the work that you want to put out into the world and really examine what your work is going to say to the world because it will have an impact. I was cinematographer on a few films for a friend of mine, and those are currently also at festivals. And we are working on another project. We're making a web series over the next year that I'm going to be cinematographer on. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, just getting back into making films. I mean, after the like kind of shut down and everything, you know, I haven't really been hands-on with filmmaking for a while. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that. And yeah, just like continuing to write things. Maybe in the future, I will want to direct my own film again. I haven't yet at this point. I've been doing more like cinematography and stuff on other people's. But I always keep trying to like keep the ideas going, keep writing so that hopefully when the time's right and I have a story that I want to share again, I'll be ready.